Welcome to Camp Chaos, where we celebrate the wild ride of modern womanhood.
Join us as we dish on motherhood, life's ups and downs, and all things pop culture that we know you want to talk about.
With special guests and expert insights, we're here to empower you through the chaos of everyday life.
Consider this your ultimate escape from the hustle and bustle. And as always, parental guidance suggested.
Camp is now in session.
Hello, and welcome back to another Pillow Talk episode of Camp Chaos. Today, we are talking about a subject just because we're on the
just because you're in your jeans 2 weeks postpartum sitting on your bed, and we're discussing the fact that how nice it is to be able to wear your jeans and like any tight fitting clothes when you don't have a C-section.
So we are talking about C-sections today. And I think, and our friend has...
I was going to say, we are your hosts, Kyndra, Taylor, and Dawson. Dawson has the hiccups.
She has hiccups. We want to talk about like the details of a C-section because I know for me, when I found out that I was going to have a C-section, I literally Googled and like looked up all over on YouTube. Like I wanted to know what to expect. And there's not a whole lot out there about what goes into having a C-section. And I get questions a lot whenever I do a like ask me anything.
People on Instagram.
People want to know about how to prep for a C-section. And I always say the best way to prep for a C-section is mental. Like I think just knowing what's to come. Because that's the scariest part is most of us hopefully haven't had surgeries like this. And so you don't really know what to expect. Like for me, this was my first surgery. Mm-hmm. And I remember Drew was like, he's had both his hips done. Like he's had so many surgeries.
But this is a very serious surgery. And I feel like it's also like dumbed down a little bit. Like people don't treat it as such a big deal. But when you stop and think about it, it is a huge deal. But people are we
were just talking to Casey before and she said, I don't know how people survive this. And I said, amen, sister.
That's right. Pay some respect to the C-section mamas over here. That's what we like to hear. Bow down. Our husbands were like, you're fine. Get up. But like when you think about it, people are like, oh, 30% of births are C-sections. And like people treat it like it's so normal. There's nothing normal about cutting someone open completely like that, cutting organs open completely like that, removing a baby, sewing them up, and then expecting somebody to go about their life. Like it is not normal.
And take care of the baby.
Yeah. Like if anyone else had a surgery that intense, they would be in bed for weeks, like physical therapy.
That's what my OB told me after I had her. She said, I had him, she said most people would be laying flat in their bed for weeks.
Yeah.
Not expecting to sit up, nurse scribes. Okay, so we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Okay, and this is also from our perspective where we were both planned C-sections and not like the emergency. Because if you're an emergency C-section, Godspeed, there is no way to prepare. You just pray and Jesus take the wheel. But as far as like preparing for when you know you're going to have one, I will say I probably would not watch any videos.
Okay.
Don't watch it. You would?
Well, I didn't watch videos.
Look at you and you're like, okay.
No.
You want to watch someboody C-section?
No.
Because
but
that would stay in me forever.
But I wanted to know like what to expect. Like, you know, there were some videos on YouTube where they spoke like how we are through the entire process.
Okay, that's fine.
So here's what happens.
Yes, I don't want to watch the C-section.
No, I don't want to watch a C-section.
Yeah. Okay.
No, absolutely
not.
So
shave yourself. Let's just cut to the chase. Don't have them pull out the razor and shave you.
They will pull out their razor though. Okay, so
back up.
So if you have a planned C-section, you get a date and a time.
Yes.
So I had an 8
a.m. And you don't get to like necessarily like pick. It's not like here, go make your reservation. It's like
trust me, I tried.
You kind of get what you get.
I tried for October 18th. They said,
it didn't work.
Man, we're full. So, you get your date and your time. Mine was 8 a.m. Was yours early in the morning?
No, mine was at like 1 o'clock.
Okay.
But I was in antepartum. So it was like this big weird waiting game. And it was like, then they came and got me and they're like, bring all your stuff. You're going down. It was like very like, I was like being evicted from the hospital.
Right. Because they're like, time to move on.
Time to move on.
So you will normally get checked in for your C-section like 3 hours before. My OB, which you're not supposed to eat, it's like any surgery, you're not supposed to eat, 12 hours before or something, wanted me to drink a Gatorade at 4 a.m. So like I was supposed to check in at 5:30. And she was like, drink a Gatorade around 4 because one of the big side effects of surgery is nausea, which we'll get into. So she said that was going to help me. So I drank a Gatorade and then I checked into Hogue at like 5:30 and you are in a room that has multiple beds.
Yeah, you're almost in like one of those rooms that you're like what you'd see for war of like a bunch of war veterans like
with
lined
like curtains.
up. And then you realize that you become a war veteran after delivering a baby and going through a C-section.
Yes.
And then your husband gets all scrubbed up in that too. Okay, now it's all coming back to me.
Yeah. So you are in there with your husband when you first check in. You'll change into a gown.
It's like the waiting
doing
room.
it based on memory right now. Okay. So then I remember they were like, "Do you have to go to the bathroom?" I'm like, yes. And they had already put my IV in or something, and she like had to walk with me to the bathroom. So you go to the bathroom, you sit down, and then they'll start doing like your intake. So all the forms.
So they didn't put your catheter in yet?
No.
Okay.
They didn't do that.
You weren't prepped yet then. They were just IV and like
IV. And then do you remember the shot you take?
Like a liquid?
They were like, okay, pretend like this is a shot of tequila, and because it tastes so bad, it's like ocean water, salty, garbagey.
I don't remember that. Why?
So you have to take it for nausea on the table.
Oh.
So they give you a shot of this liquid. They'll start you on all of your fluids. And you're still like the bed that you're in is not a comfortable hospital bed because you're going to be like carried to your operating table bed. So you do all this prep, I would say like an hour of just like getting set up, taking the shots, taking intake. Also, everyone comes in to talk to you. So anesthesiologists will come in and prep you. Hi, I'm your anesthesiologist. You're going to come in the room. This is what your spinal tap's going to look like. This is what you should feel. This is when you should feel it. Do you have any questions? No, sign the paperwork. Then your OB comes in. Hi, okay, we're getting prepped for your C-section. This is what's going to happen. Any questions? Anything I should know about? You can hand over a birth plan in a C-section. That I did do. You can
recommend that.
I recommend that. You can say, I want certain music played. I had Mariah Carey. You can say, I want my baby immediately at my face. Yeah. You can like all these different things.
Cord clamping, no vitamin K, whatever your thing is.
Whatever your thing is, you can absolutely write it and give it to them when you're in this like
I actually think you have more control in your birth plan during a C-section than you do in a vaginal birth, because vaginal birth is like so hectic and you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, spontaneous. And then C-section is like hopefully pretty controlled.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, so that's like a great time to, if you have any other questions, like if you're nervous about things, that's when you should talk to your OB. Like, okay, what,
Okay, question for you. Did they do the the antiseptic, like that brown wash on you during? Because, okay, I'm bringing
it's coming
this.
Back.
It's coming back. When I was in antepartum, before they even wheeled me down, they made me do all that by myself in antepartum. So like they gave me the giant big brown, like you'd open them, their wipes, and I had to like clean as if I was prepping for surgery. It felt very weird.
No.
Yeah, weird, no?
They did that for me in the operating room.
Oh, lovely. You maybe had to pay extra for that. Mine was DIY.
Wait, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I know.
They're like, this one's been here long enough. She's watched us all do our things. She can take this one.
Yeah.
No, I didn't do that. So basically, yes. Okay, this is where the razor thing comes in. Because you have to be shaved.
You can't have any hair on your incision site.
On your incision, which your incision is like literally at the top of your vagina. Yeah. So most women are not like shaving and keeping down their groomed. However, I was because
but it's like, can you see your
your
vagina?
But you should have like a good range of motion and like know what's going on, or at least I did. So
Sorry, Drew, can you shave me?
Some people do ask
their spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no, there's no shame in anything that you need to do to get anything done when you're pregnant or when you're about to give birth.
No.
Like, you do you.
But also like if you don't want to shave, they will shave you.
Yeah.
Because you can't have any hair. So I remember they were like, oh, they had the razor out.
So
and
you
they were
didn't
like,
get the catheter in that room?
No.
I got that catheter we delivered at the same hospital. Apparently they do things different.
No, because you don't get the catheter in until you have your spinal in.
Okay.
Because did you feel it?
I had the catheter.
You felt it?
Yeah.
Because that's painful.
I didn't like that. Yeah.
No. Yeah, I have.
Don't recommend it.
Knock on wood.
I got the IV and the catheter in while I was in that room.
No, I got the IV
operating room.
Okay, I got the IV, no catheter. All 3 of my births, I've gotten the catheter after I've been numbed up.
Love that for you.
Which is a game changer. And if that's something that you can ask for, I would say wait until you're numbed up.
The one thing I will say, and a T block, is that what it is? Or a block, what is it called? The block that you have to get when you're doing a C-section.
Like
you didn't get it. No, it's God, what is it called? It's so when you're cut open so that you don't need as many like pain medications.
Oh.
That is it Tdap? No, Tdap. That's a vaccine. A T-block. Something
sort of that is sounding familiar.
Yeah, we talked about it before, I believe. But because I was antepartum so long, they told me like, make sure you ask for it. It's not something that's like super common, I'm sure, because it costs money, but they say they'll do it for you. And it makes that whole area just like not need as many pain medications. So that is during your C-section. They give it while you're cut open. So I would highly recommend that. You did get that with Melrose. Okay.
Yes. So after you spend like an hour and a half going through this like pre-op stuff, they wheel just you into the operating room, which I would say
block. Sorry.
What is it?
Tap block.
Tap block. Which I would say is the hardest part of the C-section, in my opinion. So that you see like your husband, bless you. You see your husband get his scrubs in. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, bye. And I think it's really hard for them too.
And I think there's just a certain level of like fear and emotion that comes with that like you're scared. You're going to be awake being cut open. And like you're separating from your like support person when you're like, really, I'm alone now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That part was like the hardest.
It's a very emotional time.
Very emotional. And you like go into an operating room, which I will not lie is like very sterile. The lights are so bright in there. It's cold. And it's just like a bed.
Yeah.
And you see like where your baby's going to go, which feels very far away from you. And it's just like a little, But once you get in there, they will transfer you to your operating table and then they will start. You're in there, not with your OB, with the anesthesiologist and the anesthesiologist assistant. They will start your spinal, which is different than an epidural. Similar process.
Yeah. I will say one thing that I would put on my birth plan, which I didn't, and you don't know until you know it. Some people probably don't mind this, but for me, I wish I didn't have it. There was so much small talk going around with the nurses, the anesthesiologists. Like they were talking about nail colors. They were talking about music. They were talking about weekend plans. And it was something that like, for me, this is like the biggest moment of my life. I'm about to be cut open and like give birth for the first time. And you're like pretending that this is not about, like, this is about me. And you have John Legend playing, like you have like the music you can absolutely have. But like, I just rather have had like minimal talking, keep this about like me and the baby.
I think that's great advice. I felt very lucky. My anesthesiologist, I don't know if he like could sense
he could read the room.
Yeah. Because he very much talked me through everything and made it all about me. Like he was not doing small talk. My OBs were doing small talk.
What about your nurses?
The nurses were not doing small.
Oh, mine were.
Like
one had purple nails, and they were like, "What colors?" I'm like, "Oh my god, we're talking about purple nails!" Like,
no, that would.
Yeah, I'm like still traumatized. Yeah, the other thing that I think is important to talk about is like when you're in that room and they're doing the spinal tap. And like they're saying, they take that like wet thing and they do the wet test to see if you feel. They're like, do you feel this? I was like, yes, I feel it. Same. No, I still feel it. I feel that. And then he's like, do you feel it or do you just feel me touching or no, I'm touching? I'm like, it's cold. I know you're touching me. It's cold. Give me more. Like the fear of knowing like, but I do feel a little bit and you're about to cut me open with a scalpel.
No, that you guys is so real.
So you get more.
You get your spinal and then you lay down on the table and they like wait. And I kept wiggling my toes, which I would recommend doing like until I went completely numb because I wanted to feel like when I knew that I was wiggling my toes. And then I was like, okay, I'm wiggling them and I don't feel them anymore.
Yeah.
Then they do this test on you where they do the cold and same thing. He asked me and I was like, yes, I feel it. Yes, I feel it. He's like,
he's probably so used to all these moms being like, no, I feel it.
Well, he's like, hey, I'm going to do a needle. And he did it. And I was silent. And he's like, you don't feel it. I'm like, okay. I don't feel it, but I see it. And I think I feel it somewhere.
So give me more. Yeah, I do feel it. Yeah. Okay. And then when they open the door and like.
Then they did the catheter for me.
The catheter. Okay. Love that for you. But when they open the door and like then your OB comes in and like your husband comes in, it just feels like you're like, help. Can you trade places? Like, I don't want to be here. Why am I doing this? Like, you have not, what have you done through this pregnancy? You just get to show up. Like,
right.
That is and I don't know about you, if how Drew was, but like Gus was like shaking like a leaf. He was so nervous. I'm sure it's probably very scary for them, like about what they watch.
Very nervous also.
But then they like the nurses and the anesthesiologist start talking him off the ledge of like, okay, you're gonna sit here on this side of her shoulder. They're gonna smell like they are walking. I'm like, excuse me, like
I'm here.
I am here. Like this is about and I hate to sound like it's like make it all about me, but like.
It's all about me.
It's all about me and this baby. Hey mamas, quick question. How much time do you think you spend indoors? Well, if you're like most Americans, it's about 90% of your time, which sounds wild, right? So now here's the real kicker. Indoor air can be up to 100 times more polluted than the air outside. That's where Air Doctor comes in. So this isn't just like any purifier. It's an award-winning powerhouse filter that removes 99.99% of that nasty stuff, allergens, viruses, smoke, mold pores, even gases that you can't see or smell. So it's no wonder that Newsweek named it Best Air Purifier, and 98% of the users say their home air feels cleaner, safer, and just plain better. Unlike standard purifiers, Air Doctor captures particles 100 times smaller than the ones caught by regular HEPA filters. Yeah, it's that good. So go to airdoctorpro.com, that's airdoctorpro.com, and use promo code CAMP to get $300 off. You'll also get a 30-day money-back guarantee and a 3-year warranty. Breathe easy, campers, and enjoy Air Doctor.
Fiber diversity supports a balanced gut microbiome, yet only 5% of Americans get enough fiber in their diet. Are you getting enough fiber in your diet? If you're like me, probably not, and it's probably because it's so hard to do. That's why I started using Sugar to Fiber Probiotic Mix every day. The PhD microbiologists over at ZBiotics understand that 95% of Americans don't get enough fiber. So they genetically engineered a probiotic drink mix called Sugar to Fiber. Sugar to Fiber turns sugar in the foods I eat into a prebiotic fiber called leave-in fiber. It's really hard to get leave-in from a typical diet, and it helps to improve the amount and diversity of fiber my body receives. So I started drinking Sugar to Fiber every day because I like having a way to get closer to my daily recommended dose of fiber without needing to completely change my diet. And I really liked knowing that this fiber was coming from sugar in the foods I was already eating. Sugar to Fiber is actually taking something that I'm eating and changing it to a different route, a healthier outcome. I don't have to add something new into my routine. It's so simple. Every day, I put a pack of Sugar to Fiber in my morning water. I love knowing I'm supporting my gut health with this routine. And you guys, as I get older, gut health becomes more important to me. That's why I'm adding ZBiotics Sugar to Fiber to my daily routine. It helps me to know that I'm getting the diversity of fiber my body needs. So let me help you out. Go to zbiotics.com/camp and use code CAMP at checkout for 15% off any first-time orders of ZBiotics probiotics. ZBiotics has a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, which you won't be, they will refund your money, no questions asked. A huge thank you to ZBiotics for sponsoring this episode. Well, and then I think one of the other, so the scarier part is like when you go in the operating room by yourself, and then after you get your spinal and you're like all numbed up, and then everybody starts coming in, the team comes in, your husband comes in, then when the drape goes up is like,
go time.
Shit, it is time to
What
go.
are you about to do down there?
Well, and that's the part where you're like, hey, this is the movie now. This is like what the part that you don't know, but you kind of know what's going to happen. So the drape will go up.
Well,
so
and you also have the option for a clear drape.
Right.
If you want to watch, or if you want like the solid blue, whatever color hospitals have, so that you don't see. I sometimes wish I went back and did the clear drape so I could have watched.
Well, I watched via a mirror from my anesthesiologist.
Really?
So I watched him come out. And
I only watched
Drew.
after
I think
pictures.
Drew almost fainted.
Yeah.
But the drape goes up, and then they literally, you guys, it's almost like your OB gives a presentation, but they will go through
like almost like your obituary that they're standing over you. That was a very, I didn't like that.
Okay, this is Taylor McAllister. She is having a C-section because her baby is breached. She is 39 weeks and did it like
you're not even there. Mm-hmm. They're just talking to you about like you're a case study.
Yes. And they go through the whole thing. I also, one of my girlfriends who had a C-section before me, and I talked to her before the C-section, was like, if you can, maybe say, like, because they will sometimes ask if students can be in the room, to just maybe turn it down, especially if it's your first C-section, because it can then tend to be even more of a lesson rather than like making it all about you.
Yeah.
And she told me that she just allowed it because it was her first and she didn't know. And it felt like a little
impersonal. So like, this is not a case study.
If this is your first C-section, it is okay to say no students can. I don't feel comfortable. There's plenty of other C-sections happening that day 100%. That they can do it. So
I will also say, like with Zane's, because it was high risk with the vasa previa, we had so many people in that room. There was, I think, 14 people, just and not including Gus and I. And it was like so overwhelming of like people with backpacks on just in case. Like there was so much happening. The NICU team was there because they knew they were going to take Zane. So there was so much anxiety and stress already. If I had a student there trying to watch like as a case study, especially because they only have like 2 of my cases at Hoag a year, like this is not a science experiment.
No, and you don't want to feel like that. Like a C-section feels enough like a science experiment. Like it's
like
okay.
We're dissecting a frog.
Yeah, it's okay to like speak up during that, before and say, no, I don't want that. But after they read your obituary, my doctor was like, it's time for a birthday party.
And then
they start going. And you're going to hear when you're laying there a lot of loud noises. Like it's like a
suctions.
All these things. You do not feel anything but pressure. So you feel like you're kind of like on a ride that's like.
You feel a lot of pressure.
A lot of movement. Like it just feels like, ugh, what is happening? I didn't really feel that nauseous. I just remember being like, okay, breathe.
Is it over?
Breathe. And then the anesthesiologist told us like, hey, do you want to watch? Your baby's about to come out. So I said yes. Jared had no choice but to watch with me. And you could watch it.
So he held a mirror?
He held the mirror.
Okay.
And he was like, all right, here it comes, left leg, right leg. I think it also because I talked to my sister. I don't know if you had this with Zane, but like same with her and Ashford. Ashford took like his head took a while to come out. Miller's head took like 30 seconds to come out.
That's a long time to be watching yourself cut open.
Well, and you're also like, is
what is going on? Yeah.
Like, but I think that's normal, especially if you have a planned C-section, because if they are breech, like, they're more difficult to get out. Hence the reason for the C-section. So I would just say try to stay calm in that moment. But like my C-section started at 8 a.m. I want to say around 8:02, and Miller was born at 8:17. So
yeah, you get to meet your baby very quickly.
Fast.
I do think it's a good idea to ask your nurses or your OB, probably more your OB, communicate with me as much as possible through this process, because when I delivered Zane, it was like, okay, he came out, all of that, like you get to see your baby, then they wait. The shitty part is you don't get to hold your baby. You're not doing skin to skin. Like they put your baby right here and then it's like, okay, your baby's gone. Like that felt very like traumatizing for me.
Also, I think one of the things that you don't realize is you're really shaky in a C-section just from like all the meds that you're given.
And the shock.
And
that immediate hormone drop is like insane.
Crazy.
Your body did nothing to prepare labor. It's very intense.
When they put Miller up by my head, I remember being like, I can't hold this baby. Like I'm going to drop the baby. And I told her like, you need to hold him. I don't feel strong enough. And so just know it's not going to be like.
But could you even move your arms?
Yeah.
God, I don't even remember that.
Because your arms are out. So I'm just trying to do it like.
You could technically go okay, like I remember that. Okay. Yeah.
But I felt really uncomfortable. Like I remember I did it and I remember looking at you like, you have the baby, because I couldn't.
Yeah, because I don't.
Yeah. So you get like a couple minutes with your baby, and then another maybe unfortunate part of the C-section is your husband takes the baby. And you stay solo to get sewn up.
Yeah.
Which that part takes the longest. It's literally the longest part of the C-section. It takes maybe like 30 minutes. So my OBs did my sewing up, and then when they leave, the anesthesiologist and the assistant and some nurses do that block that you're talking about. So they'll bring the ultrasound in and they put needles all through your stomach to
do the block. Okay, I think that how do you and I deliver at the same hospitals? I guess different OBs or I don't know what, but we have different experiences. Mine was, I feel like the harder part for me, and this is where you can make a plan and hope it goes according to plan, but at the end of the day, you're going to get what you're going to get. I had a small accreta, so mine would not, my placenta like ripped part of my uterus. So she was there like holding the blood. So I was in there for like 2 hours, maybe like 90 minutes to like 2 hours after. And Gus is with the baby going to the NICU. So I think it was like a complete shock of like what in the world just happened. And you're on an operating table awake. Like there is no words, there's no podcast, there's no video that can prepare you for being on an operating table awake.
Although we're trying to do that now. But I think like knowing that is already like half the battle, like
half the battle. Like, and accepting the fact that this is not okay and this is not normal, but it's a means to an end.
And accepting the fact, which I was going to talk about at the end, but like accepting the fact that maybe this isn't what you had in mind, and that's totally valid. Like I remember feeling so devastated that I had to have a C-section. And then, but when you get there, there's like ways where, you accept it. It's like, okay, this is the only safe way for my baby to come into the world. Totally fine. I just think the alone times are really hard. So after they do after you get sewn up, I remember they used a ultrasound machine on my stomach, and then they did like a big needle, and I was like, "Don't do." I remember telling the anesthesia, "I'm like, don't. It hurts." He's like, "No, it doesn't."
What was he doing that for the
block? He said it'll help your pain management,
and it did. I mean,
it did, and it.
I don't know what to compare it to of not having that, but I will say I did not use very many. Like I think I went to ibuprofen right away. I don't think I used.
I think I had one pain pill in the hospital.
I was up walking at 12 o'clock. I delivered Zane like midday, and I was up walking at 12 o'clock because they said you have to walk to the NICU to see him, which was very intense.
Okay, well, let's get into recovery, which yours is different than mine, I'm sure, because you had a NICU baby. But like for a normal C-section recovery, you can't get out of bed, you guys, for 18 hours, which I think is something important to note, because the recovery of a C-section is drastically different than a recovery of a vaginal birth. Like even with an epidural, I was up walking to the restroom like 3 hours after I had Dawson.
Yeah.
With a C-section, you are chained to your bed for another like 12 hours, and they put those big compression things on you because they don't want you to blood clot. And then I think one of the worst parts of recovery for a C-section, aside from your incision, is because you were cut open and left open to have your baby come out, you are filled with gas, and not gas like that you're trying to pass, like that you would think. Like it's like in your shoulders.
Gas, pressure,
pain,
and it just takes over everything. Yes,
explain.
I forgot about that.
And so one thing that my sister reminded me about is maybe bring like, you know, those Theraguns or like one of those massage guns to have your husband do it on your shoulders, because you do have to pass the gas somehow. So it has to come out. And you are very gassy, but like you're going to have a ton of pain in places where you're like, why do I have pain up here? Like, why does my back hurt? Why do my shoulders hurt? It's because of the gas that's in your body. So you have to move it around. So bring a gun. And then you need to, I cannot stress this enough, take more stool softener than the hospitals give you. You need to overdose on it. Three a day, I think, is what the max is on the bottle. Like, treat yourself to 4. You
indulge.
Need it.
I will say also bring your own belly binder, but the hospital does have a good one.
They did have a good one.
Buy a couple on Amazon before and get one that stretches a lot more than you think that you're going to need, because that was a huge, huge help after. Like when you're postpartum of a C-section, you're like, I have no support here. Like that helps so much with being able to get up and get around.
The way I explained it is like when you do get up to walk the first time, you're like going to the bathroom the first time, you haven't peed on a toilet in 20 plus hours. I felt like my insides were gonna fall out. Like
no, they were, and you're terrified,
so afraid,
and you feel like all the stitches are gonna just start popping open.
Yes. So the belly binder is so helpful because it makes you feel. It's like, okay, well, if this incision pops, the belly binder is gonna catch 100%. Yeah. So wear your belly binder. They will give you one in the hospital, and you have to situate it lower than you think.
Go over that.
It has to go over the incision. So that while you're in the hospital, and know for a C-section, you will be in the hospital for 3 days because you need to. You need all the help that you can get. But also just like they have to see you have a bowel movement in the hospital because they don't want to send you home without one after an incision. They'll be checking your incision a ton to make sure that it's like healing. Although
what about after they do all that with the pushing
the
on
fundal
you? Yeah.
Thing? I think they do that more after a vaginal, but they do have to do it for a C-section too.
And that was so shocking to me. Again, it was my first time delivering a baby, but why is so much coming out of your vagina if you did a C-section?
I know.
I wasn't preparing.
But then compared to a vaginal birth, like at least a C-section, it does stop after like a week.
Yeah.
Or a couple days. But
there's no easy way of getting these children out, but I will tell you, C-section warriors.
You're a warrior. Yeah. And then what was so stool softener. And then when you get home, which we were talking before this, like you don't realize how much you use your abs and your core.
If you have a bed that can go up, keep it up. Keep your husband uncomfortable. Everybody's sleeping in the upright position.
And you
can't
help.
Laugh. And no one make you laugh.
But you need a small pillow around you at all times because you can't laugh, you can't cough, you can't sneeze without putting pressure on your incision.
Wait, like a pillow that you could put over?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that
to
helps.
give yourself like this is what I learned from one of my YouTube videos that I watched before. This woman said, find a small pillow and take it with you everywhere. I did that because when you're sneezing, it is the scariest thing.
So you put it over it and hold it. So you put it
over immediately to like create like
shield
opposite pressure.
Oh.
So you're like pushing on your incision lightly. Achoo! And it like helps
take away.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So have a small pillow for sneezing, coughing, laughing, all of those things. And then with a C-section, I think it's really important that you ask for help because you should not be doing anything.
No, there's nothing you should do.
There's nothing you should do. You should be laying there, which is nearly impossible.
Weeks, in my opinion.
Yes, which is, I think, one of the reasons why you and I fought so hard to have our VBACs because we knew the recovery of a C-section, like knowing what that recovery looks like with a toddler was literally impossible to think about. Yeah. So ask for help. This is like, and I mean help from.
You don't even ask. You demand
getting your baby out of the bassinet.
And honestly, it's not even ask for help with like, can you do this? Can you clean the dishes? Can you do this? Like whatever. It's like you have to demand it.
No, I literally told her. I said you have to get up every time in the middle of the night that the baby gets up because I can't even reach over the bassinet.
Yeah.
You know, like that's how serious it is. And you really do, like you need to be so careful with your incision because it is, like we said at the beginning, this is such a huge surgery that you are recovering from. And while we're meant to be like, people are supposed to think we're like super women, we're not. And you need to heal correctly or else you could end up in the hospital with an infection. You can end up with like, you know, a crooked incision recovery.
Oh, the worst is when you have to go to the OB and they check your incision site and I feel like Whitney helped me with this, our PT therapist, but she was like, you need to touch your incision site. You need to be comfortable with it. You need to get like, accept that this is a part of you now.
Which I was not.
And I couldn't even look at it. I would stand so far back from the mirror to look at it. It just like made me want to throw up every time I like got a glimpse.
I don't think I looked at it for over a month.
Yeah. She was like, she's like, you're healing and you need to like, just like breathe with your hand on it. And like for the mere fact of like accepting that this is a part of me now.
Which I think is amazing advice because I think that is like the main piece of advice you should take for if you're a C-section mom or going to be is
accept it as soon as you can. Yeah.
Accept all parts of it, except the part that you thought was going to happen, except the birth part, except the recovery, like accept that the scar is going to be with you for the rest of your life. Yeah. Like it's all about acceptance with the C-section and just know like you are so badass. Like we are. Like I feel way more badass that I had a C-section.
Yeah, I do wish I knew all this in advance though and like picking it up and moving it, massaging it so that you like prevent keloiding, any scar tissue attachments. Like I wish I prepared. I was so nervous for all of it that I just was like mentally blocking it out. But now it's like any future mom, like, oh, let's tell you what you need to do. Hey, girl.
And I think just know that it's very normal to be numb at your incision for like 8 months to a year to a year and a half.
to 8 years. Yeah.
Like I was literally numb at my incision for a year.
Yeah.
And you can still work out and do all those things. Just know like you had a lot of nerve things going on. And so you'll be numb. But other than that,
it'll be beautiful.
Other than those light things. No, I really just want to do an episode like this because I think it's important that we're transparent about these things. And because you and I have experience with a C-section, like I would want like I said, I get so many questions about C-sections and I'm always like, how do I explain this quickly via Instagram story?
I can't respond to you. There's not enough characters to be able to respond to you on Instagram DM. Yeah. But I do think that it's something
we covered a lot of it.
Yeah, though. Accepting all parts of it and just embracing and also acknowledging the fact that it's very intense and treat it as such.
Treat it as
You're allowed to be a princess.
Yeah.
All right.
You go C-section mamas.
See you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in to Camp Chaos. We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our show. Connect with us on social media at Camp Chaos Podcast. Until next time, campers.